All right, before we get locked in, I just want to make sure I am live everywhere. Let's go, let's go. Ooh, I just learned something new, y'all. All right. We are live. We are live. We are live. We're just making sure that we are sharing this out to all of our Cultivated Collective family. Yes, yes, yes. Trying to make sure my lighting is where it need to be. Yes, yes, yes. If you are watching me on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, I might look a little darker than usual. Something is going on with my lighting in the room today. So, but y'all can see me. That's all that matters. Y'all can see me. Okay? Y'all can see me. All right. So since I know that this people usually watch the replay, we are going to jump right on in so that people aren't necessarily waiting on us to get started inside the replay. That is very, very, very important to me. That you know people aren't waiting forever when they rewatch this replay. Okay. All right. Make sure we got all our things. Yeah, we got all our things. Let's get up and let's do this thing. Let's do this thing. All righty. So if you see me looking up, I have my phone, my Instagram on my phone. And I'm also here on the computer so that I'm on a variety of spaces. Unfortunately, I couldn't get back into my Instagram from my computer, so we have to use the two device situation. But y'all know that. Y'all know how we get down. So that is totally fine. But hey, cultivated educators, cultivated collective, my creative educators. If you don't know who I am, my name is Tendra Porter, and I'm the founder and arts and literacy specialist here with Cultivated Connections Design and Consulting. And if you don't know, but you're now new to me, that this is the space where creative educators come to be seen, to get equipped, and to build something that lasts in and outside of the classroom. Okay. We sit at the intersection of literacy and creative education and sustainability. If you know me personally, you know those three things sit at the core of the work that I personally do, as well as the work that I share with everybody through Cultivated Connections Design and Consulting. Also, we're just here for you. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into today's conversation. And welcome back. We started out going live again about 2 weeks ago, and we're going to do this every other Wednesday for now to, just come chat with y'all. We're trying out this new time, so we'll see if the 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time is the time for us, and if not, that's okay. We're gonna treat it like the classroom. Change the day, change the time, right? We're gonna treat it just like the classroom. All right. Okay, so if you're just joining us or watching the replay, I want you to tell me, where are you coming from? I love to know who is in the room with me. Okay, I love to know who is in the room with me. It is always so much fun to get to know who is all in our online community, hanging out. What are y'all teaching? What are you still in school? I know here in Tennessee, some of my every school, let me rephrase that. Every school here in the Metro Nashville district is out, but there are some other districts in the Nashville area, or like outside of the Nashville outskirts. They're actually still in, and if that their last day of school, I think, was today. So if you are still in school wherever you are, let me know, because I know y'all are getting close to the end as well. Getting close to the end as well. All right. So I'm so glad that you are here, and I mean that. I've been looking forward to this conversation literally all week. Been looking forward to this conversation all week long. Just couldn't wait to talk to you. I almost went live yesterday because I was so excited about just talking to you. But of course, first things first, y'all just came back from we just came back from Memorial Day, and so for all of those who serve or who have family members who have served and have passed on, we want to thank them and thank you all for your service and protection over this amazing country. So just wanted to honor those who have passed on and who have fought for this country. But also, I want to ask all of you something, everybody on this situation here. I want to ask you something, and I don't want you to give me the warm and fuzzy answer. I don't want you to give me the super polite answer. I just want you to straight up answer me with all certified realness. How are you actually doing today? That is what I want to ask every creative educator, every creative leader, every teaching artist. How are you doing today? Genuinely, how are you doing today? That is what I want to know from you. Okay. I want you to drop it in the comments. And again, even if you are watching the replay, I want you to drop it in the comments. One word, one sentence, whatever you have, whatever you want to share. I genuinely want to know, how are you doing today? In our Cultivated Collective community, we hold space for one another. Whether that's good, bad, ugly, in between, what have you, we hold space for one another off in these cultivated streets. Okay. So definitely share with us, how are you doing on today? Okay. And so once you share out, I want you to sit with that and just like ask yourself, like, why do I feel this way? What were some elements? Whether it doesn't have to be a negative feeling, but what were the elements that contributed to you feeling, whether it's happy, accomplished, sad, grief, exhausted, what have you? What led to that on today? And I don't want you all to say, I'm just fine, I'm just great. And now, if you are just fine, you are great, that's perfect too. But I do want you to just honor what it is that you're feeling. If it's exhausted, say exhausted. If it's relieved but sad, say that too. If it's I don't know, that's fine too. Okay. But that's why we're here today, is again to hold space and to also pull back some layers as to why we're even here. Okay. So as I am sharing with you all, I want you to again hold space for yourself, hold space for the other creative educators and leaders across this space. I want to take a few minutes to actually name some of the things that I've heard from others about how the school year was, specifically for creative educators. I talked to a lot of creative educators, specifically in the dance community. And what some of the things that I've heard have been positive, but some have also been negative, more so on the exhausted or I don't feel valued. And I've heard that quite a bit this year. In so many words, even if it wasn't as explicit of like I don't feel valued, just in the scenarios that these people were sharing, these amazing creative educators were sharing, I could feel this heaviness. Okay. And so I want us to think about the fact that we don't, I could be generalizing here, create space for ourselves enough to just be and just feel as educators, period. As creative educators, we are in such a hurry to rush to recovery because let's be real, once the school year is out, no matter where you teaching K-12 or collegiate, what have you, once the school year is out, you're ready to recover because yeah, we are in legit recovery. Okay. Legit recovery. All right, and let's name that. Let's legit name that. And I don't want you all to skip that part where we're actually looked at like what just happened this past school year, or if you're still in it, what is happening currently, because it is real. I want y'all to name that. Everything that you did, went through, enjoyed, explored, created, it mattered. But of course, it cost something as well. So we're gonna name that. I sent out an email not too long ago, and if I'm not mistaken, I think I wrote a newsletter in relation to this, or a post somewhere on LinkedIn. I put out so much content, I don't know where everything is. So wherever you saw that, I shared about something that happened this school year within the federal government, and so this school year, the federal government proposed a budget they called our disciplines, the arts, other, non-core, non-essential. And I know I felt some type of way because we all know in doing this creative work that our work is just as essential as the quote unquote core classes. We know this. But because the systems weren't built to protect education funding specifically for the arts and the creative spaces, we already know that it was never designed with our content, our creative work, the essential work, just as essential as the ELA and math and all of that. It wasn't designed with us in mind. So, of course, we're going to put y'all all together in other and eliminate some funding. This probably for some of you all was the school year where testing season meant that your room was a testing room for 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the school that you were at, or even if you don't have a designated space, you were put out of the space that you normally would, do your work in. I heard that from several dance educators this school year. So a couple different music teachers I've heard from this school year that they were basically put out of their classrooms for several weeks, to for testing. And of course, as creative educators working in K-12, we understand it, we get it, we give up that space, but it doesn't make you feel any less devalued as a educator in whatever spaces that you're teaching in. A lot of times you're pushed off into different classrooms or outside, which is a whole nother ball game. Which of course may impact the management of the space, the management of the classroom or students, because that's not the space that they're usually in, right? It could, and but that also goes to speak about classroom management. That's another conversation for another day. It goes into like how many students do I actually have in my classroom during this time, during this testing season. Whether that's because they are being pulled for additional academic interventions, or if they're being pulled for to make up a test, or if they're pulled for whatever the reason may be. There's a multitude of reasons, which of course, as creative educators, we also do still have to honor and be okay with that, which is nothing wrong with that because you only got so much time in a day, right? And so a lot of the time is pulled from enrichment or related arts type classrooms across the nation. I've experienced this, several colleagues have experienced this across the nation. So it's not a one size fit all thing or one person fits all. But another thing may be like sometimes your class just didn't happen because, especially around this time, because you were either proctoring or supporting in other spaces, because it's such a high stakes moment. Testing is so high stakes, no matter where you are, any of that. And so I just wanted to take a moment to kind of like name that of the impact across the board for the students, for the core content teachers, for the arts educators, for the principals, for the special education coordinators. Like it's such a huge shift and everybody's impacted. Some shape, form, or fashion, the parents, the bus drivers, like everybody is impacted some shape, form, or fashion. But I did want to name this from the creative educator lens, just because a lot of times it's not talked about on the impact that this part of the year brings to everybody, including the creative educators. So I wanted to name that. I really, really wanted to name that. And so I think about the times that, after the testing season is over, like it is over in most school districts here in America, or across the nation, a lot of times you go back to that space that you had to either leave because of whatever the reason may be, or it has been split due to whatever the reason may be. And you basically feel like you're starting all over again. Yes, it's March, April, May, whenever it is that you have started your testing season, but there is a cultural shift in the space, um, those final weeks. And it's not just happening in the creative education classes, it's happening everywhere. It's a school wide culture shift. Everybody tired, burnt out, what have you, right? But I do know for sure, even in my own experience of like after testing, it sometimes feels like you are basically rebuilding that culture. You are rebuilding the culture in your classroom. Because the children are burnt out, they're tapped out. You were burnt out and you're tapped out. Your colleagues are burnt out and tapped out. Nobody wants to learn. Nobody wants to teach. Nobody just don't want to do nothing, right? And so everybody's running on empty. You are working to bring that joy back into the space. I know one thing that often did after testing season is I brought mindfulness back. That's something I teach at the beginning of the school year, but I wanted to ensure that, you know, after testing, we're recalibrating our nervous systems across the board. So one thing I did do was bring back mindfulness and stillness inside of the classrooms. And what I love to do, especially, we did it throughout the school year, but especially after testing, was do something really, really fun, but also still have this academic arrangement or behind it. Is I oftentimes would take my kiddos through a journey of Black social dance history. They will learn the history, we'll do the dance, they explore it, they choreograph something, all that jazz, right? And it's still just as academic, but it took a lot of the like pressure off and just brought joy. And so oftentimes you are bring when you're doing those moments, you are coming back to yourselves before you close a chapter, right? And if you're watching me on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or what have you, there may be a little bit of glitching. I'm unsure why it's doing that, but I just wanted to share with you. You may be seeing that on your end. And my apologies. It may be something going on with my internet. Okay. And so I want you to know that like that was not you giving up on academics. Of course, that was the most academically like sophisticated thing that you may or may not have done. And because you understood in your body from your experience that students who are dysregulated, depleted, and disconnected, they cannot learn. We know this. Even as adults, we know this. They can't learn. And so you just decided to like, and myself included, to create conditions that they can come back into themselves, into their bodies, and all that jazz. And of course, we know that is social emotional learning. There's also literacy and all that jazz. And we know that the most human form of instruction is learning through the body, right? So I want you all to write what we just said down of like the SEL pieces that you are bringing back into your spaces, the literacy pieces that you're bringing back to your space. And I also want you all to think about this right here. What's one moment from this past school year or current school year, if you're still in it, that you want to remember? Like, what is one moment that mattered? And I want you to name it and like be as detailed with it as possible. As you all know, I have recently left the classroom space. But one of the things that I wanted to hold on to, that I still hold on to, was during my last school year in a elementary setting. I was teaching, it was, of course, after testing, and I was teaching my students, fifth grade in particular, about the African ring shout. And one way that we did this for all of my people, my literacy people, or dance folks. One way that we did this was we were using the visual based thinking strategies. I showed some different images of people dancing the African ring shout or dancing the ring shout. Some were like portraits, or not portraits, that's the incorrect word, but some were like paintings and artwork, and others were like actual photos, photographs. And we analyzed that, like, what do you notice? What's the same? All those different things, that literacy piece, citing evidence, all those different things. We did that, and then I share with them. It's a children's book called Dance in the Ring Shout, and I read that. And granted, this was fifth grade, and I had to do a read aloud with them just because we only had one book. And I remember this rich conversation. It was such a beautiful conversation of like the why. Why did these amazing humans who were going through this crazy thing called slavery, right? That were going through, and I'm saying this crazy thing because y'all already know what had happened, but they were going through this horrible situation, and they still found moments of joy, if you will, in worship, right? We were not going down a religious rabbit hole, of course, because yeah, Tennessee. But we did have to name that these amazing humans, our ancestors, had to find creative ways to worship and to find their own joy and community and all of that jazz, right? And I just remember my fifth graders were so into that conversation, to the point where I think we maybe had like 5 minutes to like improv and explore movement, because they were so into the conversations and the whys and the scenarios and all of that. And oh my gosh, that is something that I hold deep in my heart, was just those moments of rich discussions that happen because of dance, right? So I was saying that out loud just so you can think back of some great moments that you want to hold on to and write them down. Our brain is not meant to hold all the things, right? So write them down in a notebook or a notepad on your computer or whatever it is that you use, Google Docs, I don't care. But jot those moments down, because those moments always bring you back to your center, okay? And not only just that, those are your evidence. That's your evidence. That's your documentation. That's the story your program needs going into the fall, right? When people ask, well, what do you do in your classroom, right? You just teach dance? What type of dance do you do? Like, yeah, I do teach dance, but I also teach them this too, right? So I just wanted to kind of like bring us into this element of naming things for ourselves, for our students, for the program, for advocacy, all these different things. Name it. Okay. So, also with that being said, oh, thought I brought my water in here. Also, with that being said, I do want to talk about something that I know some of you all may or may not be carrying right now. Something that doesn't get said out loud very often, because sometimes it feels too big or it feels too risky, or for some, it feels like you are just giving up. And so I know some people are sitting with this question because I've even asked it, or they've said it to me or to others in the community. The question: am I coming back next year? Mhm. And some of you all may haven't said it out loud, whether it's K 12, collegiate, uh, arts leadership, whatever it is that you're doing, studio life. Some of you all haven't said that out loud, and maybe probably not even to yourself, but for some, it's there. Hmm. And underneath the exhaustion and the relief and the grief and the complicated feelings about summer, it's just there, and that's okay. And I'm saying this because I carried it too, as well. I did carry it for a while, for years, and then one year after nearly 13 years in public school education. I've been teaching for a total of 15 years, or 15 plus at this point. But 13 of those years were actually in public charter education. I made a different choice and I didn't come back. I chose, and I think I've shared with this with some of you guys, I chose to step away to mainly focus on my health. That was the first and foremost thing, was to focus on my health and to build something that I felt like I couldn't build while still in the classroom, because in order to build a business, you have to have focus on it. And in order to teach babies, sweet babies, and do that with fidelity, you couldn't do both with the same energy at the same time. And I didn't want to cheat any side. I'm a firm believer of, like, if you are in front of children, that you give them your all while you're in front of them, um, with limited distractions if you can, right? Of course, self care, definitely do that. But I was a firm believer of, like, I am here with these babies, and these babies deserve the best of me, not exhausted me, the best of me, right? So I made the decision to step away from the classroom. One, like I said, the main priority being to focus on my health, but also to build something that I felt like I couldn't build while still being an active teacher in the classroom. Because one thing I want to do, or have done, and one of the reasons why I've built Cultivated Connections, is to support other teachers. And how can you support other teachers outside of your school building if you are teaching, right? It's not impossible. But again, I'm a firm believer about doing things with fidelity. So and I had to think about, like, both of these things are true at the same time, and both of them matter, and they mattered a great deal. So I'm sharing this with you all of, like, it's okay to shift your dreams, to shift your focus. Just do it with um intentionality, right? I don't believe, and these are personal beliefs, I don't personally believe that, unless it's for good reasons, that teachers should quit in the middle school year. That feels not integral to me. But that's a mean thing. That's my thing that I own. So I think you should do it with a plan, one for yourself, but also to support the school system or the program that you have built. Like, take it to the end as far as you can, and be intentional about those transitions, and your why and all of that. And you don't have to explain anything to anybody, but I just wanted to share that. And so I want to tell you what I wish someone had told me those final weeks of that particular last school year. Because for there were moments where, especially that particular school year, because I was actually, like, sick. And I felt like a failure several times throughout that school year, because I wasn't able to produce in the way that I was used to producing. I wasn't able to, like, be as sharp as I was used to being, prior to that school year, because again, I was going through a very big health thing. And I felt like, did I fail my kids this year? Um, or that year, particular year? Did I give them the best last year with me? Right? Did I teach them all the things that I could have taught them in that year? Um, did I advocate enough? Did I provide them enough opportunities? Like, so many different questions had popped in my head as I was literally closing out the school year. I mean, granted, it came at various times, but specifically as I was closing out the school year, end the school year, that particular year, because I knew I wasn't coming back. So I knew there weren't any do-overs. So I had to, uh-oh, sorry, y'all, my live just, like, ended. That's interesting. It ended on my phone. That has never happened before. Sorry, y'all. Let me start it back up. And it did not save either. Huh. Well, so much for that on Instagram. Let's try it again. Tech is teching today. Let's try that again. That's interesting. But anywho, so those were like some of the things. So I'm telling you what I wish somebody would have told me. You did not fail this year. 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 Okay. You did your very best. Unless you didn't. You did not fail this year. So I want to name a couple different things, like the fact that your room was maybe turned into a testing room these last few weeks, or you was kicked out of the space that you were supposed to be in, or you were never granted a space, because that has happened too, that you could have done your best work in. I want y'all to know, like, your work is still not optional. Your work is still essential, and that a lot of the problems that creative educators are facing right now is not a them thing. It's a system-wide situation. It's a system-wide situation. It's a system-wide gap between what creative educators and creative education deserves and what structures currently exist to protect it. Now, I know this is not everybody's story, but it's a good majority. Okay. All right. So this is a field wide problem. It's not a you problem. It's not a your school problem. It's not necessarily even your leader's problem. It's like a legit like culture, American education cultural situation. Okay. So I want you just to like honor the fact that like you are still valued. Your work is valuable. I'm quite sure your leaders value the work that you do, even if they don't understand it, right? And I'm so like I always love to name the fact that I worked under some great leaders that appreciated the work that I did in the creative classroom and outside of the creative classroom. But even with the support and the love and the honor and all that jazz, there's education just still has some structures that need fixing, right? Because I think because of testing, like, and this additional pressure to perform academically, and yes, children should perform academically, right? But y'all know what I'm saying. Like, y'all have been in the classroom, outside the classroom, whether you're an educator or a former student or what have you. Y'all have noticed that there has been a massive shift the last, even before I graduated high school, there was a massive shift that shifted the entire culture of education. Um, and it's still around today, right? So I just wanted to like name that. I want to name that the fact that you are exhausted, that is not that's not evidence that you're not cut out to do this work. You're just tired. You're human. That's it. You're just tired. It is evidence that like you have been given everything that you have, despite the support, despite the not great conditions, despite all the things. You've given it all. You've given your all. Okay. um so yeah, and that's not creative educators, it's everybody. Like, education right now doesn't feel sustainable, no matter what it is that you teach, no matter what it is that you teach. Because I know creative educators are feeling like this. There are some other amazing special educators and core content teachers, and shoot, even the janitor, the school leaders that are probably also feeling this way. So yes, I am mainly talking to creative educators, but I know that you all are not the only one feeling this way, depleted and exhausted, and because it's a educational structural structure problem across the board, not just a us problem. Okay. Because I talk to not just creative educators, but educators across all content areas and roles. Okay, so I want to say to my creative educators right now that like your work mattered, it mattered deeply, it still matters, it's going to keep mattering. wherever you choose to take it, whether it's at that same school, at a different school, at a studio, at a summer camp, whatever, your work matters, okay? Your work matters. And so, as you are walking to next year, I want to ask this next question. What would you need next year to feel protected, supported, and valued in your building, your space, your studio, the camp, the program? What would you need next year to feel protected, supported, and valued in your building? If you can design it, what could it, would it look like? That's my biggest question for you all. That's my biggest question for you all today. I would say it's hard to say for me from my past experience because I pretty much got everything that I asked for. Yeah, within reason, right? I for the most part,
Y'all be doing all that
sorry.
talking.
I for the most part got um almost everything I asked for. At one point, I felt like I wasn't getting enough professional development. I advocated for that, and I got professional development outside of the four walls of the school. There were content specific. They would pay for me to go to the different conferences, this, that, and the other. So I also think about like, are you advocating for what it is that you need? But in order for you to advocate what it is that you need, you also have to know what it is that you need. So I want y'all to really sit with that. I remember it was one school year where we our team was advocating for more consistent like observations and feedback, this, that, and the other. We advocated for it. We got it. Right. Like, so, but that was just because there was certain gaps that we noticed as a team. Um, that we wanted more of. We wanted more planning time together. We got that. So, but again, we had to sit down and identify like what is it that we wanted more of, wanted to feel more protected behind. And supported behind, and we advocated for that. And like I said, that's not everybody's story where they do have such a great leadership team to support them throughout like whatever they're advocating for within reason, right? But people can't fix your leaders, your schools, your district can't fix if they don't know, right? Now, if they do know and don't do nothing, then that's a different story, and you make your decision from there. But your leaders can't fix what they don't know. Your district can't fix what they don't know. So I do want to say that, I do want to name that for real, for real. Closed mouths don't get fed. Closed mouths do not get fed. So stick with that question. Reflect on that question. What would you need next year to feel protected, supported, and valued in your building, your learning spaces, your job, your role? If you don't have the word building, fill it in with something else and design that for yourself and bring it to the powers that be and see what happens from there, and then make your decisions on like, is this the space for me, is it not, this, that, and the other, all that jazz. And so like I said, I'm asking that question because the answers you're giving is also what I'm building CCDC, so Cultivated Connection Science Consulting, to help you get. Whether there's a framework that makes your work feel like undeniable, whether that's language for conversations with your administration, because there's a certain type of language that's needed to talk to leaders and admins or what have you. If you're looking for a community of creative educators who understand what you're carrying, we are here, especially on Instagram as well as the Creative Spark newsletter. That's what Cultivated was created for, was to support creative educators with a level of understanding that most are not getting and receiving. And also supporting you with systems that don't require you to be depleted as the cost of doing this amazing work. Okay. So that's the work. That's the reason why we exist is to support creative educators and all that jazz. All right. So enough with this sad energy. Let's move forward. So because I know that we can do hard things, and I believe that because we have been sitting in the hard things or with the hard things, I also believe what comes next. I'm a very firm believer in like what's next. What's next? What's next? How can we solve the problem? What's next? Right? And so we already know what comes next is summer. Here in Nashville, summer is already happening for most of our teachers, right? And I want you all to hear this and hear me well. Your summer is sacred. Your summer is sacred. You do not owe anyone a lesson plan, a professional development hour, in a perfectly, perfected August. You don't owe nobody that right now. You owe yourself rest, real rest, real rest. You owe yourself quiet. You owe yourself stillness. You owe yourself to sleep in, to drink the coffee while it's hot, to go potty when you need to go potty at the time that you go to come and stand in your classroom, right? Yeah, y'all teachers know what I'm talking about. You deserve to sit out on your patio if that's what you want to do and listen to the birds chirp or watch the little children play outside without being in charge of them, right? You owe yourself these amazing things that you probably were not doing or fostering throughout the school year. And I know that that can feel like indulgence when there's just a lot to do. I know. I've spent 13 to 15 years in front of children, 13 of those years lesson planning, doing things over the summer, this, that, and the other, curriculum planning, all that jazz. I get it. Okay. But what I'm telling you is like, we already know you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot pour from an empty cup. We know this. That's been preached to us, but we need to also honor that and feel that reality. You cannot pour from an empty cup. I know there's a saying from one of my colleagues. I interviewed her a few years ago, and she said something that sticks in my heart in regards to the you can't pour from an empty cup conversation. Yes, you can pour from an empty cup, but you shouldn't be pouring from your cup anyway. You should be pouring from the saucer, the overflow. Because if you're pouring from even a full cup, it's going to become empty at some point, right? So pour from your saucer. In order for you to pour from your saucer, you got to pour into the cup. All right. So I want you to take this summer, whatever it looks like for you, and I want you to pour and fill that cup to the brim, to the point where it overflows so you can dish that out, whether it's this summer or what have you. Because come July or August, September, whenever you start PD or start school, the work that you need requires you to be full, right? It requires you, in order for you to do this work, you have to be full, right? And also remember to, as you're resting this summer, think about, how do I keep my cup full throughout the remainder of the school year? Especially when it feels like the breaks aren't enough, right? So definitely get your rest. Rest first, whatever that looks like for you. Rest first, rest first, rest first before you make any decisions. And do that, all right? So before I jump off here, when you are ready, because we're talking about resting first, right? When you're ready, because there's no timeline on this, I want to invite you all to take the Creative Instruction Profile. It's a free diagnostic tool. You can actually see the QR code at the top. And let's see if I can show it here. Yep, it's there too. And it probably dropped inside of the comments. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But I would love for you all to take the creative instruction profile. It's a free diagnostic assessment that shows you where your instruction is already producing academic outcomes and where you can design with more intention when you're ready. Okay. When you're ready, whether it's this summer, right before school starts, whenever. All right. There's no timeline. And then I want to tell you all this gently, just a little sprinkle dinkle, because we're not ready to share everything just yet. But there's something coming in July for all of my amazing creative educators, the Cultivated Collective. Um, I've been building something for a while, something specific to the creative educator who knows that they're teaching is academic, is rigorous, is creative, and all that jazz. But for someone who doesn't really have a system to design it, prove it, and communicate it with confidence. Okay. So I'll share more about that in July, but I just wanted to, put a little sprinkle out there so y'all will know what's popping, what's percolating out here. And the first place that is going to be announced to is definitely going to be the email list. So if you're not on my email list currently. I think that's the correct one. But if you're not on my email list currently, get there. However, if you do take the assessment, it will put you there anyway. So take the assessment, get your score, and you'll get the additional emails. If not, send me a DM, and I'm happy to share a link with you, because I don't think I have it on this roster of QR codes here. All right. All right. So we're coming up on our closing time. Thank you for staying with me a little bit longer. I've been shooting for 30 minutes, but for whatever reason, I tend to go over, but that's okay. Y'all know I'm long winded. And so I want you all to think about this. You made it through the entire school year. I'm so proud of you. You made it through the entire school year. You made it through a year where the government tried to take you out because we know funding looked like a mess. Uh, funding looked a mess this year, specifically for the creative arts. Um, I just remember so many articles earlier this year of people having to cancel shows and programming because of funding. So we've been in the fight of our lives, right? You survived a year where you probably were pulled in multitude of directions, whether it's in the building, outside of the building, at home, at the studio, whatever. Yeah, you probably were working under conditions that were not supportive, whether that's, oh, I have a classroom today. No, now I gotta go outside. Yeah, not cool. Or serving a multitude of kids that is unsafe for them and unsafe for you. When I tell y'all the stories I've heard, it's crazy. But you still showed up though. You still created, you still built culture through the cracks, you still foster student relationship, you still fostered creativity through these amazing little humans or young humans, right? And you still brought joy even when you felt like you didn't have anything else. That's not nothing. That's everything, boo. That is everything. But anywho, I thank you so much for being in the room with me on today, for closing this school year out together. And for trusting that this space is, really asking you, how are you doing? How are you doing? How are you really doing? So I want you to share this replay with a creative educator who made it through the end of this year, and or who's closing out the year if your school is currently not out or your program is currently, still going. And, tell the people you're not alone. And like Michael Jackson said, you are not alone. I'm here with you. Cultivators here with you. All right, y'all take care. Talk to you later. Bye.